Yo, what it do, YouTube? It's your boy, Sage. Welcome back to another stream video. This is recorded content, my apologies, out of disclose, but do check out the Twitch because I game there all the time and whatever. Today, we're here with One Piece! It's One Piece time! I'm so hyped. I haven't done React content in forever. I've missed it. It's been a couple of years since One Piece live action season 1 just dropped. I don't know why I'm saying just dropped, when it dropped. And I reacted to a couple of sick videos at the time. I'd like to do the same for season 2. So I've compiled a collection of sneak peeks and behind the scenes and stuff like that. And so we're going to be reacting to all of them and splitting it up into maybe a couple of parts because, I don't know, maybe these videos are long. Disclosure, I just finished rewatching live action season 1 with my dad. Had to put him on the peak, you know, especially with counting Madagascar now, 4 countries that overthrew their governments utilizing that kind of straw hat imagery as a rallying cry. It's just more important for even the old heads to get tapped in, even purely for politics' sake. But I'm so excited. If I do end up splitting it into multiple parts, I'll play most of the same intro again and again type deal. And you know what? Let's just jump right into this, guys. I'm finally ready for One Piece live action. I don't mind being the stand-in, y'all.
Okay, ready?
These are the most
I'm lucky enough to have dragged Clem to join us for this last video. The most controversial changes in One Piece live action. 16 minutes. Are we ready?
I thought you were gonna do a sound check.
Oh, I hear you though. Oh, do you hear it?
No, but did you hear me chewing?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yay! Okay. So let's see.
That guy looks like, I was gonna say the wrong name. Let me look it up.
Which guy? The guy on the left?
The guy on the right with the white beard. White beard?
No, that's Garp. That's Garp.
Oh.
That's Vice Admiral Garp.
Okay.
Let's do this thing.
These are the most controversial changes that the live-action One Piece made from the anime and the manga. Changes between mediums are inevitable. In fact, even changes between...
You don't think you hear it? Let me redo the screen share.
Let me double check. Okay, wait, no. Try again now.
The manga and the anime sometimes end up
Hell
being
yeah.
quite controversial, and they're practically a one-to-one translation. But here are things that people
On God, right?
are saying. The first controversial change is Roger's death, namely that we actually see it. This is interesting because never before in any of the One Piece have we seen the moment where Roger dies. It's
Oh, interesting. I don't know. I guess
He was upset about the aura loss, maybe?
no, I don't even think it's like that. He's just saying like we've never seen it before. We saw it. I don't know. I feel like that's a little silly.
Yeah, I mean when the live action does something never before seen.
But I think he's saying
usually like a dramatic cutaway.
No,
or
I'm
even
not
a
hating on Roger.
non-dramatic
no,
cutaway.
I'm
start off
prepared
with
to
the
hate.
pros of this change, it immediately sets the tone for live-action One Piece. It tells us that this is not the series we know, and it's going to go in its own direction while still remaining mostly true. As an existing One Piece fan, this is the first moment where you go, oh, all right, this is going to be a ride. But also there are arguments against it. Roger is a character who is larger than life. His presence is always felt in One Piece. And even 20 years after his death, the legacy of the Pirate King is what has shaped the world we see today. So actually seeing Roger die does risk...
I gotta see that guy die.
Yeah.
Reducing him to the status of mere mortal. Because our last image of him isn't this deity smiling gloriously, it's of the life slowly draining out of his very, very human face. Again, we've never seen his death in the anime or even the manga, and I think there's good reason. In fact, it's not even clear between mediums exactly what was used to kill him. The execution implements and methods often change, and in fact, so does the time of day and even the weather. Roger's execution has been depicted on a bright sunny day, as well as a dreary rainy day, which I think only only furthers the legend. It's sort of like listening to the stories of how the Joker got his scars.
Fair.
How did the Pirate King die? Well, you see, no one's quite sure, because everyone tells the story slightly differently. And really, the live action does contribute to that. It's another different retelling to add to the Roger pile. Next up, Octopus. There's a few missing characters in live action.
I liked his
Okay.
first take. He had a solid first take.
I like that. Who is that with the hair?
This guy is so funny. So we end up going to his island.
And
He
that's
was
not Egghead.
no, it's not Egghead. He was a pirate that has been trying to look for this treasure for all his life, but he got stuck in it. He got stuck in the treasure, and so now he's kind of like just stuck in the box. He lives in the box. There was never any treasure,
Dang.
but the crew saved him from his fate of searching forever. So he like made friends.
One Piece, but the one you'll see called out most often
very
is
funny.
Hart-chan, also known as Hachi, with Hachi being his nickname
Yes,
and Hart-chan being his real name, which I have to point out because otherwise
I was looking for him on my rewatch with my dad. There wasn't the octopus fishman.
people are going to be all up in my comments. But Hart-chan is an octopus fishman and an officer of the Arlong Pirates along with Karubi and Chu. And during the Arlong arc, Hart-chan serves the very, very important role of being defeated by Zoro. Now, as much as it pains me, I can't blame the live action for not including him, because the fishmen look like they were a hard enough challenge as it is. So trying to
Yeah.
make one work with 6 arms using 6 sword style would be a nightmare no matter which way you went, practical or CGI. But in a very recent interview, showrunner Steven Maeda went on to explain exactly why Hart-chan needed to be cut.
What do you think you could have been better, and how do you think season 2 can improve on it?
A lot of things are solved by budget. There's always more that we wanted to do and couldn't afford. And I have been bringing up, for example, the character of Hachi. Boy, do I want Hachi in the show. And we had a whole fight between Hachi and Zoro set up. I couldn't do it. And that's no one's fault. It's just a matter of time and money. It would have been so time intensive and so expensive to do that. So those are things, that I hope can make it into the show at some point. The bigger ticket items like that.
Here's the thing though, Hachi is technically in the live action, but you wouldn't know that just by watching it.
Can I relate why it's important? Is this mansplaining if I do so? Why Hachi is important?
Yes, it's okay. I never saw them.
Okay. So, like they were saying, Hachi was a 6-sword style guy that was in Arlong Pirates. Whatever, Zoro beats him. But he comes back up, both in the Fishman Island arc and elsewhere. He learns from his ways after getting dogged by Zoro and no longer subscribes to Arlong's pirates or his whatever. He feels bad and he goes out of his way to apologize to Nami for the hell that he put her through for like a decade and a half.
What did he do?
He took over her island, remember?
No.
Arlong did. He was part of the pirates that did it.
I mean, I don't remember.
Oh, yeah. He took over the Coco village and made them pay tribute and killed Nami's mom right in front of her. And then Nami, even though she was like 8, decided to join those same people who did that to her mom because she thought if she made enough maps and helped them out and made some money, she would be able to buy back, purchase the freedom of the Coco village in exchange for 100 million berry.
So
And then
that's why
she
that's why she wants the treasure, to buy her land back.
and she even got the amount that she needed, but when she told Arlong sabotaged her because she was never gonna get it back.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, why did he so now she can just never get the island?
Well, that's why Straw Hats and gang stepped up. Once Nami finally gave up and realized that she never had a chance doing it her way or whatever, she's finally willing to ask Luffy for help and Luffy and gang kick their asses and destroy their entire base.
On her island,
Mm-hmm.
and then her island is freed.
Yeah.
Okay, yay!
But he comes back and he's sorry for all of that, and so Hachi's important later. That's why they were like, well, it's also a cool fight, but whatever, right?
You can show Chef. Can you?
Oh, hi, Sheffrey. Oh, he's there.
Credits for episode 7 list an actor named Jared Norman playing Hachi/Angry Fishman, which refers to this
Interesting.
guy playing poker with Nami in the beginning. I say
Oh, I do remember
playing, I
him.
mean losing, hence the angry. And Nami beats him with a hand containing 2 4s, which is a direct reference. His nickname Hachi is Japanese for number 8, and unless my maths has failed me, 2 4s come together to form a mighty 8. So technically Hachan wasn't cut, but he effectively was. And this has some
They have
pretty
math
massive impacts for the
over
future,
there.
because in retrospect, Hachan is actually the most important member of the Arlong Pirates, because Hachan goes off on his own journey, meets a mermaid and a starfish, and eventually ends up setting up shop at Sabadi Archipelago. And when the Straw Hats get there, it's a pretty big moment when the crew decide to help Hachan in need. And
This guy was about to be sold in slavery. I forgot about that
Dang.
part.
Yeah, W.
And they saved him.
even bigger moment when, after they make friends, Hachan is the catalyst for a very, very big decision that Luffy makes. A decision to do with fists and faces.
Whoa.
So who are they
Whoa.
going to replace him with? Chu or Karubi maybe? Well, actually, according to this behind the scenes photo, Karubi seems like a pretty nice guy, so yeah, maybe, why not? Another pretty big alteration is how Luffy actually eats his devil fruit. And it's an interesting change because it doesn't not work. Originally in the manga, Luffy is established as an omnivore. He's a very energetic little boy man who is always hungry and will eat seemingly anything. So during the scuffle with Higama the bear, Luffy continues to eat, and having run out of food, he finds this weird fruit in a chest and decides to eat that while no one's watching him. In live action, Luffy actually has a bit more motivation to eat the fruit. It's not explained during the scene where we see it happen, but the idea is that he consumed Shanks's most precious treasure. So maybe that now makes him the most precious treasure, question mark? I don't know, the logic isn't amazing, but also he's
And they
a
never
child.
explain
doesn't
it.
have to be amazing. But this change is less controversial and more just fascinating. Because if you're up to date with the story, it actually makes perfect sense. Because there's something very
Whoa. Hold on.
special about this devil
Okay, hold on. No, we're skipping.
Yeah, the
moment
one
of focus. Because in the original
not even
series,
intro.
it's more of an afterthought. All right, this next one's a
Okay.
big
Whew.
one.
Sorry, that was going to be spoilers for me.
Probably
for us.
the single greatest change in the show, which is the Battle of Baratier. Or I guess not that, because it didn't happen. It cannot be understated just how much cutting this conflict changed One Piece.
Interesting. Huh.
I don't know.
So there were a couple of things that happened at the Baratier in the anime. There was a marine jerk face who was referenced, and he was still in it, but he wasn't relevant because the episode's in length, right? But there was a pink-haired marine jerk face that was being a jerk that we helped out with, or I think Sanji kicked their butt. There was this other guy, Dreiger, something like that. He had a cannon over his shoulder. He was cool, and he brought a tons of pirates to try to rob the place, and the Straw Hats help repel them, and then they eat type shit. And then Mihawk comes, and then whatever, and that stuff. Only the Mihawk part and the Fishman happened in the show.
Some context. Do you remember this pirate in the live action? The guy
Here we
who
go.
Mihawk used to metaphorically wipe his very posh ass with? Well, his name is Don Krieg. And in the anime,
Don
manga,
Krieg.
he is the big antagonist of the entire Baratier arc. After being chased out of the Grand Line by Mihawk, Don Krieg arrives at the restaurant and decides that he's going to commandeer the floating vessel and add it to his fleet. And this is originally how Luffy gets out of being a chore boy for a year. He makes a deal with Zeph to defeat Don Krieg. And in the live action, I'm not sure if it's ever actually explained how Luffy got out of his year of service, but this is a pretty large-scale affair. Don Krieg, in terms of military might, was actually the most powerful.
It was the Fishman.
powerful pirate in East Blue. So he essentially brought a small army to Baratier, which was met with the formation of a resistance group comprised of the combat-trained chefs of the restaurant. It's probably the largest scale conflict of the East Blue saga. The battle at Arlong Park looks quite cute in comparison, but that's why
Just in terms of number of people
filming
involved.
This whole battle would have been shockingly expensive. So many set pieces to destroy, an army of extras, and the biggest expense is actually time. With an 8-episode series, we just do not have the time for any prolonged conflicts. That's why fights in the One Piece live action are generally very short. To put what was lost into some context though, the Baratier arc is 27 chapters long, or 12 anime episodes, and the Battle of Baratier makes up about 90% of that content. So even though this arc was 2 episodes in the live action, what we actually saw was about a third of the content from the original, if that. I think that's being generous. But it's not just about missing out on big spectacle fights, and quite frankly, I do think that Don Krieg is a character that most fans would be okay cutting. He's probably the least memorable East Blue villain, but it's less to do with him and more about the impact of his decisions on those around him. One thing I guess I should make clear is that if you're not familiar, One Piece is what would be described as a battle manga. That means that fights are very common. In fact, fights are the main vehicle by which Oda tells the story. That might sound weird if you're not used to anime or manga, but if you are, then you know that, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Battles are primarily the places where characters develop. It's where they learn things about themselves and others. And what the One Piece live action had to do out of necessity was cut most of the battles, which means that it had to find other solutions for characters to actually develop. For example, Gin is a character that you may or may not remember from the live action. He just sort of pops in, Sanji feeds him, and we never see him again.
I do remember him
To
though.
many who do know One Piece, this is a big disservice to the character, because Gin is not just a member, but a commander of Don Krieg's crew. So when he turns up starving at Baratier, there's an understanding that Sanji is feeding an enemy. Gin's not just some dude in need. He's someone who represents a legitimate threat. And knowing that, Sanji...
And then Don Krieg comes. Sanji feeds them, and then Don Krieg
He
comes.
still feeds him anyway, because that's his principle. And seeing that moment is what makes Luffy decide to recruit Sanji. But this has consequences, because feeding Gin allows him to go back and bring Don Krieg to the restaurant, who promptly decides to invade it. And throughout the ensuing battle, Gin becomes quite a complex character for East Blue One Piece, completely torn between his fierce loyalty to Don Krieg and Gin's admiration and respect for Sanji, who saved his life. And eventually Gin is given the opportunity to, but refuses to kill Sanji and effectively swaps sides, but also finds a way to remain loyal to Krieg and essentially ends up sacrificing himself to save Luffy. I say essentially because, look, we don't see him die, but it's pretty damn likely due to all of the poison he inhaled. So as much as I understand why it needed to be done for the sake of time, reducing a character like Gin to a random who stumbles into the kitchen for a minute is something that is very controversial within the fanbase. Because if anything, Gin is one of the most memorable parts of Baratier, if not East Blue as a whole. But this also comes with big consequences for Sanji, because the whole Baratier arc is about showing Sanji that his dreams are worth pursuing even if it involves putting your life on the line. It's a recurring motif that starts with Zoro versus Mihawk, which Sanji isn't actually present for in the live action. But in the manga, he sees Zoro willing to throw his life away and simply does not understand why. He also sees Gin willing to throw his life away over his loyalty to Don Krieg and again doesn't understand why. Then finally, he sees Luffy willing to put his life on the line to save a bunch of cooks he just met, and it's only after watching all of this that Sanji openly shares his dream of finding the All Blue. So the live action is a bit lacking in that regard, because Sanji doesn't see Zoro, Gin, or Luffy's determination. Luffy's being especially important because it's fighting and defeating Don Krieg that shows Sanji that Luffy is a captain worth following. In the live action, this whole thing is replaced by a quick skirmish with Arlong, which Luffy loses, and it doesn't really do anything to show Sanji that, yeah, Luffy is the right guy to leave with. The scene with Zeph is very good, and it's one thing to leave the restaurant to follow your dreams, but why pledge your loyalty to this specific rubber boy? It's just a sort of knock-on of...
Fair. The only thing that's really present within the show is Sanji's backstory insofar as him becoming a chef and or not becoming a chef, but more specifically his relation with Zeph and how he ended up on this place. But yeah, the gravity of the decision to give the enemy food and have it directly impact the story in that capacity is lost. They should have had it be one of the fishmen, I guess, but it doesn't make sense for them to have been stranded out there type deal. And then, you know, so I guess, but they're going to give Sanji something good next season. I'm telling myself.
opportunity for in the future seasons a flashback where they just say this is what happened, but
Nah.
you know, they'll pretend. Wait, this is coming out on Netflix? Yeah, we have to pray.
Season 2. It just is too much in terms of large scale. It's too many people.
How you
Maybe with Chopper,
Fact
Sanji
that
will play a
happens when you
role.
remove 90% of a story and have to quickly and efficiently cobble something together to fill those gaps of character development. And what they did in the live action, I think it works well enough for a first-time viewer, but
I agree. It just lacked depth is all. It lacked gravity.
as someone who knows the series, I find Baratie pretty unsatisfying as a whole. Again though, sometimes cutting the big battles, it does work. I think they got around the Sanji thing fine, they did it fine. But here's an example of when it didn't work. Also removed from the live action was the Syrup Village invasion, and overall
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, they didn't give Usopp any glaze. I do agree with this completely. Usopp, they only say he's a sniper because nice shot, and because he was doing a
I
trick shot.
remember this too. I think I remember watching this.
Yeah, I thought they did do well at the end with the Fishman Island where he kills that other fish person, but this would have been Usopp's first moment being brave, fighting those new guys. But to be honest, they were really wacky. One was a hypnosis dude, and there was a lot of them, and it was
Syrup
just
Village
a lot.
ended up being quite a claustrophobic arc. In the original series,
Hikey.
almost nothing happens inside. There's a few scenes in Kaya's mansion, but the vast majority of the arc takes place on the coast of the island, with the Straw Hats fighting the Black Cat pirates, of which there are a lot of them. In the live action, we only see Captain Kuro, Sham, and Butchie. But
Because it verified that Usopp was right. It wasn't just like a pirate who was disguised as a butler. It was like literally pirates. Like he brought his pirate army.
there's supposed to be a whole crew of them invading the village on Kuro's command, including a fan favorite who was cut from the series named Django. This was
Django.
actually quite unexpected, because for the promotional events the live action held, they had walls of bounty posters, and one of the posters is actually
Whoa. Holy shit.
Django, so we were very much expecting him to be in the show. TLDR though, Django is a hypnotist who has a quirk of often accidentally hypnotizing himself as well. He's a very quirky character, and even over 1,000 chapters into the story, he still pops up every now and then. But Django on his own probably isn't a big loss. It's not so much that his absence is felt for him, it's that the lack of Django is a pretty big loss for Usopp. Django is the vice captain of the Black Cat Pirates, and the man ultimately charged with killing Kaya. And whilst the Straw Hats were occupied with Kuro and the rest of the crew, it actually falls to Usopp to go and save Kaya, which is a massive moment for him because he overcomes his cowardice and actually succeeds in defeating Django when it most matters. Something I don't think the live action
He directly saves her as opposed to in this one.
does very well at all is establishing Usopp's cowardice.
Yes.
He's more just generally incompetent, but Usopp's entire dream is to become a brave warrior of the sea. And the reason why that seems just as impossible as Luffy becoming the Pirate King is because Usopp is the exact opposite of brave. I don't even think we have a word in English to describe how cowardly he is. But his whole drive to set out to sea is less about adventure and more about self-development. That's why he wants to leave Syrup Village, to become the brave warrior of the sea that he pretends to be in front of Kaya, and also to live up to the legend of his father Yasop, who Usopp greatly admires. So robbing him of his hero moment as well as his moment of standing up to Kuro very much robs us of understanding why
Instead, they let him kiss his girl. That was the difference.
Boo!
Nah, shout out Usopp. He had to have at least one W, you know, but like
At the cost of what, bro?
even his
You know
cowardice
who
is
you
very like
are.
casual in the anime. He's not really, or in the live action. He's not really like terrified. He's like, I'd rather not. I
He
guess.
said
Usopp
he would call
eventually
for a
joins
rain
the crew.
check, if possible.
A raid check on God.
As it is, Luffy saw Usopp doing some cool snipes in the kitchen, and I guess that was that. Large-scale
Yeah.
village invasions are time and money intensive, so it got cut and streamlined. But unlike Sanji, the live action didn't find a good or indeed any way to make sure that
Hikey.
Usopp still got the beats he needed. It's not all about fights though. Sometimes there are just ideas in the live action One Piece that had to be simplified for the sake of time. And a very common one that a lot of existing fans didn't take too kindly to was that in the live action, nobody knows about Nami's plan to buy back Kokoyashi Village. Whereas in the manga, they all know. And
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
Just pretending
She was like demonized and hated or whatever, as opposed to being seen as a spy or a liaison who's gonna help free
to
them.
hate Nami so that she doesn't feel bound to the village. They want her to be able to leave and escape. And the idea that her sister Nojiko in particular hates her is a big departure. Because for those who know, Nojiko's tattoos make no sense now. She got those tattoos because Nami was ashamed of her Arlong pirate tattoo. So it was a show of solidarity. Nojiko is supposed to be the one person in this world who Nami can confide in. The only one that would welcome her home. And again, I get why this change was made, because it is a slightly more complicated idea to convey in the time they had, but it also brings up potential questions such as an entire village of adults willing to let Nami sell herself into servitude. If not done correctly, it could look pretty bad. And on paper, yeah, it's a very difficult idea to balance, and it really does take someone.
This is Piers Morgan, not actually the British talk show political commentator, but this is the
precise skills in the right medium to pull off, just like how Oda did it with the manga. And look, if the live action producers weren't confident that they could land the idea, then it might be for the best that they didn't try. But either way, it does remove a lot of the heart of Kokoyashi Village, and it turns Genzo and Nojiko into characters that I legitimately don't like. And then there's Garp. I'm not gonna
just
spend
unsubstantive. They're really only there for two beats. One is how could you do this, and then the other is hey, thank you, and that's it. It's just very. This is interesting though, because Garp wasn't really in the anime like this at all, period. He was only here to link up with Kobe eventually. In the live action, the whole time he's chasing after Luffy because he knows he's the grandson. In the anime, we don't find out till like episode 300. But they know this on the third episode.
Much time on this because everything that can be said has been said in other videos.
Yep.
Garp is actually in East Blue, but his plotline takes place as part of a cover story with Kobe and Helmeppo, almost none of which the live action chooses to adapt. They go in a completely different direction, integrating.
Huh?
Why do so many people have white beards and the guy is naming himself Whitebeard? So when I
okay, can I show you my favorite part?
jacket on, I'm like, this is Whitebeard, and then it's not Whitebeard.
Can I show you the funniest part about Whitebeard?
Mm-hmm.
Let me know when you notice.
He's got long horns.
He
And
doesn't even have a beard.
What? What?
We just happen to like our old
Is
men.
this like a mistranslation?
No, it's not.
Draw him like this?
It's
Oda
intentional.
made white beard and drew him with no beard. That was the
Yes.
he landed on.
Yes.
That's
Look,
pretty funny because
even
then that
the
means it's
even the Whitebeard pirate logo is just the stash.
okay. He said he's gonna be Whitebeard with no beard, just white. That's so funny.
Them with the
That's
Straw
so
Hat
funny.
story.
What
The
a
most
freak.
wild Garp change is that you're not supposed to know that Garp is Luffy's grandfather until more than 400 chapters into the series or 300 episodes.
I called it.
So what they did here was borrow from a future arc called Water 7, where Garp does pursue the crew and throws cannonballs at them, etc. He even meets them on the island and does a big info dump. So it's not completely unfamiliar, but it does feel out of place.
It
And in the
does.
best case scenario,
But I actually liked it insofar as it felt like a natural way to keep Cody and Helmeppo in the show, as well as like juxtapose them to Luffy as a symbol of justice and highlight that element. But I did think his ending was lame as fuck. His arc of the season, because he was kind of just like, he saw Roger and Luffy in his laugh, and he was like, "Huh, this was all just a test. I wasn't like actually gonna turn you into jail just now. I was just testing you."
Bruh.
down the line, we do get to Water 7. It makes me question, are we just gonna replay these exact same beats again? But just as a character, Garp is probably the one who
He is such a good artist, this guy.
who departs most from his manga self. In the live action, he is extremely
commission?
serious, prone to tantrums, and honestly mildly incompetent. Whereas in the manga, Garp is at a point in his life where he's quite carefree. He's much more similar to Luffy. And in fact, he wasn't even going to chase after Luffy at all, but he got ordered to. And even then, he purposely gave a half-assed effort. There's probably nothing wrong with Garp to a first-time viewer, and
Fair, but here's the thing that I think that change does that is effective and useful and helpful. It juxtaposes the what does justice mean question early on, as well as highlight a branch of justice, not the carefree laziness thing that maybe we can get from somebody else later on, but personal interest. It establishes this is inherently personally interested. This is his grandson, you know? And at the end, Cody is like, hey, I'm not going to arrest him. And that was part of the turning point, was a new branch of justice, a potentially good Marine being developed.
I think it does provide an intriguing mid-series twist, but he's very jarring and quite controversial for those familiar with the character, especially in a series that otherwise does remain pretty incredibly faithful to the source material of One Piece. And as I've said in other videos, this is on the record as one of the changes that Oda really needed to be pushed into. He did not want to do the Garp plotline at first, and I personally think that we maybe should have heeded that hesitancy and tried to come up with another way around it. Because while I personally do think the idea is sound, the execution makes it the weakest element of the live action. But you let me know in the comments. What do you think?
But he doesn't say why he thinks the execution of it makes it weak. Well, that was a fire video. Okay. I'm gonna end the recording. Thank you for, that was it. Check out the other part. Thank you for watching. Check out the YouTube, check out the Twitch. Says walk on both. Peace out.
Goodbye.
Oh my goodness. That was so much fun.